Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils podcast, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Bet just $1 on any NFL game this week. Get $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. Tough one tonight, but I'm joined by longtime NBA and NCAA basketball assistant coach Dave Miller. Dave, how we doing?
Doing great, my friend.
I'm could be a little bit better. One Jay Heath, a couple inches on Jay Heath's last shot, and that game could have gone a lot different. Sun Devils fall to this to the Dons by just 1 point, and this one now fall to 5-7 on the year, breaking their 3-game winning streak. Immediate reactions, Dave. What'd you see tonight?
Well, when you play against USF, and I've had a couple of their games in years past, you know they're all about analytics. Todd Golden, one of the bright young coaching stars in this profession, you have to understand that they want to shoot the three. It's simple math. They can make more threes than you. They can let you score twos. They're going to win most games. Very, very analytical. So I thought that the whole game came down to how ASU was going to guard the three. Now, ASU came out, Shane, and they were hot to start, which was a good sign because I think they were shooting a little bit under 30%, maybe 29%, if I remember correctly, from looking at some stats. But again, it was I thought the three ball, number one, was the most important thing. And then USF went to that zone, and ASU really struggled attacking that 2-3 zone. I can count maybe 4 times on this hand of possessions where they executed well, and both times the ball got into the middle, and Kimani Lawrence was able to draw 2 and then hit Gaffney on the baseline. They have to do a much better job of attacking the zone. What does the zone want you to do? They want you to shoot the 3 ball as opposed to trying to get it inside.
Yeah, absolutely. They were switching back and forth from man to zone in that first half, and then the second half they realized it was working, and ASU thought they could just die by the 3 tonight, I guess. Just not the best numbers. And as you said, they came out hot, 3 straight threes. DJ Horn hit 2 in a row. Jay Heath hit 1. They finished shooting 6 for 24 from the three-point line, only 25%. And that's just not going to cut it against a team like USF. I was a little upset last night that GCU came out with a win because I knew if they would have beat them, I don't think they'd come out with this much fire. You could see really late in the game it showed that they really wanted this win. Especially coming off of a loss that was literally just last night. So that probably wasn't the best thing. GCU didn't help out the Sun Devils in that case.
Well, Shane, it was unbelievable, the turnaround. And again, both universities in the same town, but just to be able to prepare, it was almost like, not even an NCAA tournament game because you have a day in between, but very similar to playing in, a Thanksgiving or a Christmas holiday tournament. Yeah. But the only problem is ASU, I think, had 4 or 5 days off. So, it was that rust versus rest. And, USF is too good. They've got so many pieces. What's interesting is Bouye, who was averaging, like 19 points. And I had games when he was brand new to USF, and I couldn't believe what I saw. He reminded me of a couple guys that I've recruited over the years. And I think, I don't have a stat sheet in front of me, but he either had 4 or 6 points. So,
finished with 4.
Yeah. Which is unbelievable. That's 15 points under his average. So I really thought, all year long, ASU's defense has been ahead of their offense, obviously. I mean, throw out the Washington State game where they only scored 29 points. Hurley's defense has kept them in games, and that's why they've won 3 in a row because they rely on their defense. But offensively, I'm going to break it down real easy. It's all about their shot selection, and again, as a staff, maybe they live by that, and we're just looking from the outside in. So, I never second guess coaches, But sometimes the shot selection that I see versus the zone, it was one pass, jack it up. They weren't getting the basketball inside. Man to man, I want to use both sides. I think this team has the ingredients to really push the pace based off that defensive pressure that they create. But no go, when you get into the half court, you've got to get the ball from the right side to the left side, dribble, drive, penetrate, draw two defenders in. And sometimes I don't think they give enough time nor have enough passes to get high quality shots. I see a lot of contested shots and I see a lot of quick shots.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been talking this all year. This team looks so much better when they're running, and obviously to be able to get out and run, you need stops. And they had a lot of steals tonight. The total number on that is, I just had it in front of me. They had 14 tonight, and a lot of those didn't result in immediate threes or buckets in general. It just they weren't able to capitalize when they most needed it. But the second thing you mentioned was the quick shot selection in the zone. A lot of the times they started the possession with at least looking at Kimani Lawrence in the high post. And I think that's where Kimani Lawrence thrives. I thought he had a great night again tonight. He's one of the best creative finishers I've seen in the Pac-12. And still they shy away from him sometimes, or sometimes he even shies away from himself. So I think they'll look at this a little bit. They struggled against Syracuse's zone, as everybody does, obviously. But when this team gets put in a tough situation with a zone defense, it's not good.
Well, I think, and you mentioned the Syracuse zone. We see the same zone at University of Washington with Mike Hopkins. And there's a reason, whether it's Syracuse or whether it's Washington, that they leave you open at the free throw line, because it's not a free throw. Right. It's not a dead ball situation. And it's a very difficult shot. And a lot of times I see college teams, they'll put a guard in the middle because you want a playmaker. And trust me, I am a huge fan of Kimani. I like to call him the super senior. He's one of the few guys that came back on this team. And again, this is from the outside looking in. I think he would have good leadership. All the new players will look up to him. He knows what Coach Hurley wants. But it's very difficult to get the ball in that middle and to be able to just rise up and shoot that shot. You want to have playmakers. The two plays in particular between Kimani and Gaffney is he put it on the floor. He drew those two defenders up, and he was able to dish it on that the short corner, and I call it a baseline dive to the rim. That's what's important. But, I don't want to get coach speak on this, but when you play against the zone, and let's just talk about the 2-3, there's certain gaps. So number one, you can't pass the ball from the top to the right to the top to the left. You've got to stretch that defense like a rubber band, and that's what creates the driving seams. You want to drive it in. You want to pull two defenders, and that's going to open up a perimeter shot. Or you get it into the middle like we call the sweet spot, and now they converge on you, and you can either dump it to your baseline diver or kick it out to the wing for a shot. So as a coach, I can't say that they were surprised about that, because really good coaches, whether it's man or whether it's zone, a lot of coaches don't teach plays. They teach how to play. And Bobby Hurley is a very good coach. He's just got to get his guys to execute, have a little bit more poise, have a little bit more patience, and attack that, stretch that. Picture a rubber band, Shane. You keep stretching it. The elasticity loses, and now you've got gaps to drive and pull up. You've got gaps to penetrate and kick.
Yeah, absolutely. To the ASU fans, and to myself even, one of the biggest gripes, speaking of what you just said, is that it almost seems like this team doesn't run plays. And yeah, you said they teach them how to play and not run plays, but it seems like they get stuck in this Princeton, or in this case, a set offense where they're trying to get it inside. What is the fix for that? How do you get an offense out of a lull specifically for an entire team? Because it seems sometimes they'll go on stretches where not only do they not score for a while, they don't get an uncontested shot for a while.
Well, I remember a long time ago in 2001, we played Duke for a chance to go to the Final Four when I was an assistant coach. And, Duke only ran 2 plays, 3 plays max, because, again, offense, the best offense, and I think ASU will get better at this, is pushing the pace. You want to defend, and what do? You got to defend, you got to contest, you got to block out, rebound, and then you go. When you get down to the other end, it's not that they're not running an offense. It's that they're breaking the offense off or they're settling. Even if you're in motion, and again, I haven't seen ASU in person, so I can't sit here and X and O on a chalkboard, what sets they run. But certainly, this is it's major college basketball, and Hurley, has played at that level at Duke. He's played in the NBA, so it's not street ball or lunchtime ball. But there comes the time as a fan that you have to put some of the pressure or the blame, if you will, on the players because they work on certain situations. The penetrating kick, I will tell you this, it just hit me while I was talking. The hardest offense to guard is motion offense, which is free flowing. Yep. And we also call that the read and react, but you see it in the Princeton offense that we ran when I was an assistant with the New Orleans Hornets. So in any offense, the first thing you do is you catch the ball and you're poised, you survey, and your eyes are on the rim so you can see like a pizza pie. You can see anything that's happening, and you want to read the defender's foot. Is the top foot up? If it's not, you've got a middle drive. Is he squared up? Now he's forcing you to play sideline to sideline, so you better have somebody do something. So I don't want ASU fans to think that it's for lack that they're not being taught. Bobby Hurley has been in every situation, maybe more than most college coaches that never played the game, to be able to know what to do. But the responsibility comes on the players. Are they taking what they're being taught in practice? Are they bringing it to the floor? And then most importantly, are they executing? The droughts, I think, comes with the shot selection, as I alluded to a couple minutes ago. I just think they settle for too quick shots. And again, there's different, everybody says when you're a parent, you treat every kid the same, or a teacher.
Oh, I think we lost you there for a sec.
Yeah. Are we back?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see. There we go. They say teachers, high school teachers, elementary school teachers, you have to treat everybody the same. No, you don't. You have to be fair. So when you've got a guy that like DJ Horn that's coming down, he's got a bigger leash, more rope to be able to take those shots. But there's some guys that I think are just shooting the ball too quick. And that's when you get into the scoring drought. And then here it's compounded. When you get into a scoring drought, Shane, I don't think you should keep jacking up threes. I don't believe that as a coach. Yeah. I believe you got to get layups because now once you hit a layup, the basket gets a little bigger. You work your way out. You hit a 10-foot jumper. That basketball gets bigger. You're depending on coming down every time, man, and jacking up a three. That rim gets like this. It gets to the size of a coffee cup. Those are the things that I think they struggle in when they go. I mean, they were in that game. They had a 6-minute scoring drought, and I don't know if they attempted, 3 or 4 good shots. I thought they were questionable.
Yeah. Well, Dave, one player, you mentioned shifting the blame to the players at some point. One player that has gotten a lot of heat, and I guess rightfully so, that I was really high on before the season. I still am really high on because of just his pure basketball IQ, is Marion Jackson. Not another pretty low performance from him tonight. Only finished 1 for 7, 2 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds. He kind of does everything for the Sun Devils teams in terms of trying to, but at some point, he's got to find a groove. He's kind of had the yips. He's been in a slump. He had one good showing earlier in the year, but from a coaching perspective, when a player is your starting point guard essentially is having a tough time scoring the ball or just getting anything going offensively in general, what's the fix? Do you do anything? Do you mention it or?
Oh, absolutely. You address it. You break down film, and in this day and age, all staffs are so large. I would personally, and I'm sure they're doing this because I respect this staff. You break down every single possession, every offensive possession.
Yeah.
And the quick fix that's what the coach has to do. And then you've got to come in and you've got to have film sessions. The one thing I learned when I covered the Lakers for the 6 years as an analyst is that Kobe wanted to be coached. Everyone thought Kobe didn't want to be coached, or they say superstars don't want to be coached. The best players in the game at any level want to be coached. Now, the people that think you're throwing shade or you're drinking Haterade instead of Gatorade, those are the guys that don't want to be coached or they have insecurities. But from all I know, he's got to be able to go in there and look at film with the coaches. He should go home and, hopefully they have cable and they tape the Pac-12 network and they're able to see these games. The other thing is with the slump, he's got to get in the gym. There's, I am totally against when I hear other analysts on air say, well, he's just got to keep shooting and work his way out and hit a couple and open the rim up. I don't know if that happens, because I think when you miss so many shots, Shane, in a game, and this isn't just for Marion, this is for any player, you start to press a little bit. And instead of having the ball move, when they were shooting the ball well to start that game, that ball is moving. Mike D'Antoni used to always say when he was with the Lakers that the pass is going to find the open man. And I firmly believe in that. I'm not so much into, secret potions or some salt you can throw out there or magical dust. But if you have ball movement and you have player movement and guys know their roles, I think that makes up for a lot. But I'm not worried about him right now. He hasn't played well, but that just comes with repetition. Remember this, Shane, this is a brand new group that was thrown together. It's almost like at Kentucky every single year when they had all those, 5-6 guys that are getting drafted and you bring in a whole new group. There's a certain phase that you have to go through, that you have to see where you fit in. And then for him, that's the quarterback. If it was a football team, he's the point guard. He not only has to think like Coach Hurley, he's got to know who's hot, who's not, where's his shots. And I think if he could do one thing, he should be the guy out there when a guy takes a suspect shot. He should be the one, the coach on the floor that says, hey, I don't know if that was such a great shot. And conversely, when someone's hot, I think you need to go to him until the well dries up with water. We used to always say that with Chris Paul in New Orleans. Hey, if you got guys if Peja Stojakovic is hitting shots, keep going to Peja until he misses a couple, then we'll find another well and we'll dig it out.
Yeah, absolutely. The only thing about that is sometimes he's the one that's been taking the questionable shots. But as you said,
hold on. Time out a second there. Then Coach Hurley, if that's the case, then Coach Hurley has got to take him out of the game. Because if you might think that, I might think that, fans may think that, but once coach thinks that, then the only way you're going to correct that is to put him on the bench. If in fact you've gone over the film, you've talked about what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. And then here's the other thing. If you're a player, there's 4 other players on the floor. For guys to do their work early to get offensive rebounds, what a bad shot is considered is one that your teammate doesn't take regularly at practice. So if a guy takes that one leg and, dribble, boom, create space, step back. If you as a teammate know that's his shot, then you can go get inside and get that inside position. So there's a bunch of things, but if he continues to do that, then the coach has to address that because he's the head of the snake offensively and defensively.
Absolutely. It might not be the best idea to keep shooting until you get hot. It's also not the best idea to keep betting until you win. And that's a strategy that I've been using this weekend, unfortunately, at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable, it's fun. I had a pretty hot day yesterday, and then today I came back down to earth. A lot of losses, including those damn Ravens coming back. But if you want to get some skin in the game, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use that promo code PHNX when you sign up. It's just $1 on any NFL game this week. Get $100 in free bets if either team scores a single point. That's 21 plus. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for more details. Let's get into our lyric of the game. This one is a little sad. There's the great graphic. This one comes from Courtney Barnett, I believe. Yes, the song's called Ray Street. This was coming for a while. I had this saved up in the 3-game losing streak. Light a candle for the suffering, because this Sun Devils team could have done something special by getting not just this win, but what certainly should be a win against Florida A&M come Tuesday, and bringing a 5-game winning streak into Pac-12 play. So this loss does not come at the best time for the Sun Devils team. But as we mentioned, I mean, this is a new group. I've been saying this. I'm probably the most positive Sun Devils fan out here. There's a lot of people that have been questioning this team from day one. And it just, even with this loss tonight, I think it looks like a completely different team than it did in the Bahamas. And not to mention, Hurley loves scheduling these tough out-of-conference games. He always does. But this year specifically, in this 9-game stretch, they've now played 7 teams that made the tournament last year. The only two not making the tournament is USF and Washington State, which two of them they both lost to. So it's just 9 really tough games in a row, and hopefully they can get right against A&M on Tuesday and go from there. Do games like that, Dave, help when you're playing kind of a lower skilled team, a lower level opponent? Does that help you get right, or is it just it doesn't really do much?
You're supposed to win those games. What it does is
Mm-hmm.
you can get guys that are at the end of the bench that aren't getting some run that you're going to have to rely on in conference play. But I'll tell you, you said something really interesting, because I couldn't agree with you more. So different than from Cancun, but they're so different from the Washington State debacle. You look
Yeah.
at these last 3 games, and they weren't supposed. And I don't look at in the paper to see who's supposed to win and what the point spread is. I've never done that. I don't even understand that, being a coach, because it's never been part of my daily repertoire. But here's my point to that, is that a team that struggled like ASU, and you go to Creighton, ASU isn't supposed to win that game. That was a gutsy win. They hadn't won in Oregon probably since I had bangs, and that's been a long time ago. To go to Oregon and to win with Dana Altman, that they put those 3 games together, and this speaks to Hurley, and it speaks to the cohesiveness. I don't necessarily think all the pieces are fitting right now. They're still trying to get these pieces together, and that's what the non-conference is for. But this is a totally different team. They could have folded. Lose that game to Washington State, and it could have been just all downhill. They come back and they win 3 games. Today, again, a couple shots here or there. They made a couple. Their defense has been decent. And again, with that record, I'm not going to sit here and sound foolish and say how great it is, but they're just they're not scoring enough points to win these games, and they're holding teams to some, and I don't have their numbers or their metrics in front of me, but as a fan watching it, they need to score more points, and I would like to see them more with that push game. I think that they have pieces offensively where they can rebound and go, and Shane, they should be coming at you in waves and just never let you get up for air. And when they made that run and they created the separation, it was small. Neither team could get separation. It was done defensively with stops. I like to, as an assistant sitting on the bench at any level I coached at, I charted every 5 possessions. Could you get 3 stops of those 5 possessions? And if you can do that, you're in a good position to win the game. So their defense has been good. It's the offense that has to get fixed. And again, we started out with my very first 2 words with ASU. Shot selection.
Yep. They're about middle of the road in points allowed per game, and I think they're in the bottom 10% in scoring, mostly due to that 29-point performance against Washington State. They have yet to have a typical shooting night for a Pac-12 team. They've had moments of being hot, but it ultimately fizzles out. They started hot tonight, thought it would be a different game, thought they'd get up into the 70s or maybe even 80s. Obviously, it didn't happen. And when this team doesn't score 70 plus, they're going to have a hard time winning, and the defense is what's keeping them into it. It's true. And the press sometimes works, and it worked a little bit. Jay Heath got 2 steals in a row and 2 buckets in a row. But other than that, it's just passion that this defense stays with. They have spark plugs like Jemiah Neal, who will come off the bench and guard their best player for a little bit, for young freshmen who can't really score the ball, but you need those type of guys. And Alonzo Gaffney is a really good interior defender, and Enoch Bialachi is sometimes a good defender inside. You have these spark guys that come off the bench, but none of them can score, and I think that's a huge problem. You have your 3 guards that are absolute flamethrowers, and Kimani Lawrence also, but other than that, when those guys aren't on, even if it's just for a 5-minute stretch and they can't score, this team has problems.
Well, I like tonight, Shane, and again, you might have a stat sheet there to check, but just from watching with my eyes, the points in the paint, I like that ASU was able to get inside, and there's no question about it that they had more points. I just don't know what the differential is. But with guys like that, with bigs that might struggle to score because they have the size, they have the length, and that's why the defense has been so good, because their guards have been able to pressure up, and now you have rim protectors. You have guys that can help on a blow-by or a direct line drive. But if you you have bigs that are struggling to score, okay, because they just don't have that big post player, and I'll just use Shaquille O'Neal for people that are watching, right? Just someone that can or DeAndre Ayton that played down the road a couple of years ago. You got big guys that can get 2 feet in the paint. If they don't have that, so you still have your push game, but now you have rim runs. You run them down, and I don't care, even when they get into conference play and they're playing against big 7-footers, I know this for a fact. Quick beats big in the post. You can, now if you want to come up and you want to play bully ball and they want to play bully ball defense, you're probably going to lose that if they wall you up and they play the verticality game. But quick beats big in the post. You don't have to be 6, 9, 6'10", 7 foot to be good down there. But you can't rely on that 3 ball, because you've heard this, the old cliche. You live by it, you die by it. And if they're hitting shots like they did to start, so now you start missing shots. Now you've got to go inside. You got to get to their guards are unbelievable free throw shooters, right? But like in the first half, I think they only shot 4 free throws or 6 free throws. That just tells you that they're settling. I want to get, and the other thing is, in the first half, they were in the bonus. USF was fouling. They should have been on the dribble drive, attacking the rim, getting, drawing fouls, getting N1s. You have to understand the game within the game. And sometimes as players, you get sped up. And then that's the job as the coach, that, hey, we might not need to take so many outside shots. We're in the bonus. We're going to the line for every foul. Let's get some dribble drives. Put the pressure on USF to defend.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned that having a big man, you don't have to be so big. Quick beats big. This team historically has not had a big man. They were starting Kimani Lawrence at the 5 a lot last year. They've never had that solid guy. And then coming off the bench, it was either not very talented bigs or just really undersized guys. This is the first year in, I think, 5 years that they've had 3 guys that can play in rotation, that can play a genuine 5 spot. Do you think it's this team and the program and Bobby Hurley not used to having those 3 guys and not being able to utilize them, or is it something else, or is it just the shot selection, as you said?
I think it's the shot selection, because Bobby Hurley in college and in pros played with big guys. And trust me, you talk about a basketball family. We know, I used to recruit his father's players at St. Anthony's, and then you saw Hurley's career. He's always played with a chip on his shoulder. He's always been that gym rat. So he knows how to play. There's nothing, again, I'll reiterate this. There's nothing in a game that Coach Hurley sees with his eyes that he hasn't been a part of thousands and thousands of times. It's just about trying to fit the pieces. It's like always having a nice car and all of a sudden you get a Maserati or you get a Lamborghini, right? They're not easy to drive. And trust me, I don't have any of those, but I've been enough of them with players that I've coached in the NBA that it even feels different when you're in that car. So when you're used to playing, one way, and I'll steal something that Coach Bob Knight told me one time. You do 3 things every day, whether you're a basketball coach, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're a bus driver, whatever your profession is, you either get better, you stay the same, or you get worse. And 2 of the 3 ain't worth a damn. So there's no way these coaches aren't looking and they're not seeing what needs to be done. But again, it's a time, it's fit. You just can't throw, 5 musicians out on the stage at Staples Center or, Desert Financial and have a concert. It takes time. And that's what it's about. I think fans at ASU are smart. They understand there's 3 seasons in college basketball. There's the non-conference where you tweak things. You look at your offense. You look at your defense. Obviously, the regular season, everybody wants to win the Pac-12 regular season. And then you get the postseason tournament where all you got to do is get hot to get that automatic bid. So right now, Hurley and his group are taking quizzes. They haven't even taken a major test yet. And they've played a great non-conference schedule. Okay, they've played some good teams, but these are all quizzes. Now, once the conference starts, and I don't know, tell me, Shane, is their first one at UCLA? Is that right?
I believe it's the USC game at USC on the 30th.
So that's their first test. And that's going to be a hell of a test. That's not even a test. That's like a midterm because USC is playing so well. And, you know, they're right where they left off last year defensively. And that's losing Evan Mobley, who could be, you know, the rookie of the year in the NBA. So right now, these are tests. And they've had some good scores and they've had some failing scores. So that's what about being a coach is, just like a CEO. You're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and then come hell or high water, you better have that figured out by the time you come to LA and head to the Galen Center.
Yeah, well, it's not just one test, it's 3 damn exams. They have USC, UCLA, U of A, back to back to open up their conference play. So a real gut test coming up for these Sun Devils. As I said, they dropped this one to USF 66-65, fall to 5-7 now. Have a get-right game against Florida A&M on Tuesday before they start conference play on the 30th. Dave, anything else to add about this team and what to expect from them heading into conference play?
Well, you alluded to it. I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking about players that come in off the bench. You mentioned a couple and what they bring defensively and the energy. And I think a lot of teams always take on the personality of their coach. So one thing, you know, they're going to fight, they're going to claw, and they're going to scrape. And I think the most important thing now is that they don't need to bring clutter into the locker room. And again, it's that old saying, you know, our grandfathers once told us, you know, you can't point the finger because you have these 3 that are pointing right back at your. So this team has got to stick together. And I'm not alluding that they're doing that, but as a coach, you want to make sure that they're staying together and you got to show some of the positive. You know, in my film session that would be tomorrow morning, you've got to show some of the things that we did well. And then guys, we have to build on those things. But then also, it, you know, being on a team is like being a family. It's got to be tough love. It's got to be heart to heart. So now we have to break down what we're doing wrong. This is how you attack the zone. This is how we need to attack the zone. This is it's hard to be in a film session and the coach has the clicker and he keeps rewinding it. You know, there's been years and teams I've been on when I'm showing film, I wear out just my thumb. And, you know, hitting that clicker, rewind. And again, I go back to Kobe Bryant. It's the biggest thing. One of the biggest things I learned covering him is that he wanted to be coached. He wanted to know, you know, another one that's in town, Chris Paul, when we coached him in New Orleans. Chris Paul didn't want to know after the game what he was doing wrong. Chris Paul said, I want to know now, because a lot of times some coaches are hesitant. They don't want to say something negative, and then the player drops his head and there's that bad mojo. The great ones want to know. Chris Paul wanted to know, should I take 1 or 2 more dribbles in that pick and roll to stretch the defense so I could look for the pocket pass, you know, or should I turn the corner? So I think this group, if they're bought into coach, which I don't know because I haven't been at a practice, I haven't been in their locker room, but if they're bought in and 2 feet are in, then they've got to stick together. Don't listen to the people in your posses. Don't listen to, you know, high school coaches, AAU coaches that might want to grab your ear. What you got to stay with is that we're a team. If you believe in the system that's put out, now what can you do to help this team win and get over the hump? They're not far, but it's not going to take 5 guys. It's going to take 12 or 13 guys that are sitting on that bench to come together and to be able to have the resiliency to fight. And I've never seen Coach Hurley not fight. Whether it was a pickup game in Jersey City, New Jersey, whether it was at Duke, or whether it was in the NBA. So they're going to continue to fight, and they're going to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I've heard people have so many doubts about Coach Hurley, but the one thing I can't stand is when people say that he doesn't connect with his players. You consistently see players coming back, and DJ Horn actually spoke last week about how much it meant for him and the team that Hurley just stuck with the same game plan after that awful loss to Washington State. They didn't change anything, and it worked. So, look, I think this team is on the right path. And as I remind every single ASU fan, this is without Marcus Bagley and without who should be your leading scorer in Marion Jackson, MAC Player of the Year. They're not doing anything. Bagley obviously injured and still out. No update on him yet. But this team has a long way to go. I've said it since the start. It's all about getting right and getting hot at the right times. And I still think this team has enough confidence and talent to do that at any given moment. Yeah, it's not a great night for Sun Devil fans, but I'm still excited for the road ahead.
Well, I'm excited for you and for the platform that you have, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on. And if there's anything I can do from you going forward, don't hesitate to call. And I haven't said forks up since my last year. It wasn't called Desert Financial. It was the UAC. I think it was the University Activity Center. And
Okay.
I had some fun practices, and we had some great games in there. I'll tell you, when you were talking about the last big, I had to think of Isaac Austin. Isaac Austin was on that team in 1989, and he was a pretty good big that the Sun Devils had. So, okay, keep the faith, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. You can follow me at Shane Dieffenbach on Twitter. You can follow Dave Miller at Coach Dave Miller on Twitter. You can follow the show at PHNX_Sun Devils. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Head over to GoPHNX.com. Got new stuff dropping every single day. Guys, it's been a pleasure as always. We'll be back on Tuesday right after the Florida A&M game. That game tips off at 3 p.m. right here at Desert Financial. Thanks for tuning in as always, and peace.